Common sense. You're listening to Rush to Reason.
Okay, we are back. Jim Paff joining us, Conservative Caucus. Jim, welcome. How are you, sir?
Doing well, John. How are you doing?
Good. Always a joy to have you. Talk to us about, are we making any headway on getting DHS and TSA funded?
No, are you kidding? You've got Republicans in the House or in the Senate working with their mortal enemies, Chuck Schumer and the gang, to make midnight deals that no one wants, that shows that they are very, very weak people. You know, I was talking to a friend about this today. Do you remember in the movie Patton, George Patton is about to go speak to a group of British ladies, and he gets a brand new dog and brings it out of the car, and one of the ladies' tinier dogs starts barking at it, and it backs off and runs away when he thought it was going to be a tough dog. That is Republicans, most Republicans in Congress. They talk a big game, but if they get barked at a little bit by the puny people, and in this case, Democrats are puny because, you know, 20% only 20% of people support their desire to let people vote without IDs or proof of citizenship, and Republicans can't get it. So that's our dilemma. Well, so on the DHS funding, will it happen? I mean, it's eventually going to happen, but the thing is, Republicans just have to be willing to do it, and Republican House leadership has shown a willingness to push back on Senate leadership.
Which I think is good. I mean, I think the problem is, and I talked about this in one of our earlier hours, Jim, the problem is we don't communicate the fact that it's the other side and the reason why TSA workers, you know, are not on the job because maybe they've got to go make actual money because they're not getting paid right now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they got to do what they got to do. But we're not doing well enough at telling passengers that are traveling that fact.
Well, it's because I don't think that they want to tell that story. I mean, listen, and there are a bunch of reasons for it. It's just kind of this kaleidoscope of problems that brings about this unwillingness to discuss these things. But in general, what causes that is what my friend Peter Schweitzer wrote in his book, Throw Them All Out, that led to the Stock Act getting passed, that these people will do fundraising. They'll bring up one side of an issue, and the opposite side does all their fundraising with the lobbyists and with people, you know, to try to get money to come in. Then the one side goes down, and then the opposite side of the same issue comes up, and the other side ends up doing all their fundraising. Like this game is actually played in Washington. The idea of a uniparty is a real thing, or at least we're very close to it. And so in the leadership, they don't want to make waves. As I've said many times, Mitch McConnell's plan was lay low, don't do anything controversial. Every once in a while we lose the majority, but, you know, we'll tend to have it in the long run, and so no big deal. And then that's a crappy way to do business, and Republicans do that because they are scared to push back. And I can tell you this, John Thune and leadership in the Senate and many Republicans in the House even, it scares them when they see these No Kings protests because they have no idea that the American people don't like this at all, and it's all paid for anyway.
That's right.
And they're not willing to stop those payments by changing how we send money out of Congress. And hundreds of millions of dollars are going to these organizations to work against them, but they're not willing to stop it. So this is a problem. They're scared. They're feckless. They have no courage. And they love their $174,000 a year paycheck, and people thinking that they're far more important than they really are.
I don't understand what they're scared of. I mean, at the end of the day, what are they afraid of? Their own paycheck, or what are they afraid of, Jim?
Well, a paycheck's part of it. You know, I think I've told you this story sometime in the past before, John, on the show. But my friend Tim Hillscamp and I, former Kansas congressman, we were talking to, I don't want to name him, but we were talking to a guy who had run for a Senate primary and lost. And the guy was a professional, like he had a kind of professional degree that should have a really good living, but he was in his mid to late 60s. He lost that primary. He was literally scared to death about what was going to happen after. Now, he was having that problem because he was a good guy, and he wasn't going to end up, you know, taking the lobbyist course and make twice what he's making. But that's the thing. Most of these people have no background that would call for them to be able to do anything if they left Congress for any reason, due to a loss or on their own. And I really believe one of the most corrupting influences in Congress is people who come in there and they never had much of a career to begin with, or some small career that wouldn't carry them afterwards. They're scared to death of losing $174,000. But again, there are other things than that, but that is a key one, and I think we need to keep it in mind.
You know, I've talked about that for so long now, Jim. That is one of the biggest issues I have with a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle as I look at what some of these guys have done in the past, and then I look at what they're potentially going to do in the future, and I think to myself, they don't have a skill set to build an erector set, yet they're going to go and try to fix, Washington or fix the State House. And it's like, wait a minute, you've done nothing but be a essentially professional fundraiser and have a campaign, and you've won some elections that way, but really at the end of the day, you've done nothing other than that.
Well, and that is quite true for most people. But even people who have good degrees and good background can struggle with this as well. And I'll give you a perfect example. My friend, former Congressman John Hostetler from Indiana. And those who remember the 1990s remember him because, he was a Ron Paul-like figure, solid, and from that perspective. And he won. He got elected. I think he was reelected 7 times, and then he lost. Now, John had been an electrical engineer in a local southern Indiana power company and had a really good living going for him, but he was just concerned, and he ran, and he was there. Okay. He never got an engineering job after he left Congress, and he was always kind of working to associate with some conservative organization to try to do this or that. It was a really challenging lifestyle, but people didn't hire him, and he was a well-qualified engineer.
Interesting.
So, even people like that can have a struggle, and that is a corrupting influence, if you ask me. Listen, these people are not very important. The vast majority of them. Like Darrell Issa is important because he built a really big business and he's got a concern, and so he did that, and that's worth something. But his congressional service is worth nothing, and I think it's worth nothing for most people.
Yeah, and I agree, and I know that you and I can talk about it. You're not going to get that changed unless you can get voters to start looking at things differently and understand that. Wait a minute, we want somebody that really is. We're hiring an employee. And I wish I really could get people to understand that our system, our republic is we're hiring an employee to go do a job that we just don't frankly have time to do, Jim. We should be looking at it that way. The problem is we don't do interviews well enough. We don't ask the right questions. We don't hire the right politicians. And then we wonder at the end of the day why we end up where we're at.
Well, we lack critical thinking, and in some cases, we lack the courage to get involved. So I'll give you an example. Recently, I found this thing on Facebook that is videos from a guy who's got a ministry in London, a fabulous Christian ministry. But what he does is he tells stories of the martyrs of England, and he gives tours, actually, to show people this. So he'll tell these stories of these martyrs, and particularly with Bloody Mary, who killed a lot of Protestants in her time as Queen of England. And these people were engaged politically, because that was a totally political thing, those killings that happened because of religious sentiment and just standing up for what is good. And the one that I heard recently, the guy said, listen, do not believe anything that I preach to you from the pulpit if I scream when they burn me. He knew he was going to get burned at the stake. If I scream when they burn me, then don't believe anything that I told you. This is a radical commitment to truth in culture, politics, and elsewhere that Christians have had in the past. And I just use that as an example because I don't see that same thing in a whole lot of Christians these days. They sit on their hands, they look at how the horse race goes in politics, and they do nothing about it. And it's time to get in there because you've got a whole country to save. And you are of right to do that in a country like ours where the citizens are the sovereigns, not the government in any shape, form, or fashion, and we are accountable to God for what we do as a nation, and everything is at stake because of that.
Yeah, and again, you and I continue to talk about it. Hopefully we can get others to start talking about this, and I maybe I'm trying not to be super cynical here, Jim, but I've sat in this chair for quite some time now, and I remember even early on, interviewing different politicians that would roll through, and and I was nice and kind, and I always still am. I mean, I'm not going to beat somebody up, that's running for office, but, try to ask, critical questions and so on. And Jim, there were times, and still are times, where somebody will get done, I'll be done with an interview, and I just think to myself, and these are usually people from our side of the aisle, you don't have a snowball's chance of winning anything. But at the end of the day, I guess you can go ahead and run. But it's disappointing because these are people that really think they've got the ability to win something. And you and I both know, and you've done the same thing I've done over the years, you know as well as I, they don't have a snowball's chance.
Well, and sometimes it gets really wacky. So before you were sitting in that chair, I was. And the year that Dan Mays ran for governor,
right,
and Tom Tancredo came in and heroically ran as an independent because Dan Mays was such a disaster. But you had our grassroots base get really excited about him. They could not support Scott McGinnis, who certainly wasn't perfect. I mean, he was sometimes a little bit moderate, but he had a very true libertarian limited government streak in him and would have been far better than the alternative. And everyone was so upset with him, and that's fine with that, but the conservative, so-called, that they went to was entirely illegitimate and just was a disaster for the Republican Party, and the party's been having problems since and in Colorado. So, yeah, we've seen this over and over again, and the thing is we need to be discerning. We need to be critical thinkers and learn how to be critical thinkers, and then we have to be courageous about what really matters, not the game of politics that's interesting where we see people arguing and going after each other. And you've got to do some of that to do politics properly, but that's not what politics really is about. It's not about the game. It's about winning. And this is a very Vince Lombardi thing. Vince Lombardi was lambasted for saying winning isn't something, it's everything.
Right.
And the reason, and everyone thought that was bad because it was so, particular. But the reality is, when you're a football coach and you have a team on the field, your job is to win. And that's a less important thing. The most important thing is to win in culture, society, and politics for good against evil. And that's what we haven't always done a good job at, and we need to always keep learning to do.
Well, and not to beat a dead horse here, Jim, but I've said this for years as well. I go back to, I'm sorry to say, this is the fault of churches, pastors in the pulpit not wanting to talk about politics, not teaching civics, not teaching their own congregation how these things work, using Romans in the wrong way, and basically making it seem like we need to bow down to our leaders. But that's not the way it is in this country. We don't have a king. For all those that are out protesting no kings, by the way, we don't have a king. We, Jim, are the government. We are the leaders of. If you're going to apply that chapter and verse in Romans correctly, you would be applying that to us because of the way our government works. And the problem is pastors don't say what I just said, ever.
That's exactly right. When I was a very young Christian in my early 20s, I got a hold of Francis Schaeffer's book, A Christian Manifesto. Francis Schaeffer was just foundational for me because he talked about these problems both in philosophy, and he was a pretty heady, very well-educated man, but he also talked very practically, issues like abortion and culture and stuff. And he said there was a famous speech he did at D. James Kennedy's church in Florida. Yeah. And in that, he said, if you claim to be a Christian and you're only a Christian within your religious sphere at church or around fellow believers, you are not living the Christian life if you don't also demand of culture and politics and society Christian values as well. That fervor is what led those martyrs I spoke about earlier to be willing to go all the way, seemingly for nothing. Not having Joel Osteen's Your Best Life Now. I mean, that is not what Christianity is about.
Agree.
To believe in truth and to walk in truth is to go all the way and in every sphere, and God is in control of every sphere, whether we do that well or not. And it's our job as people of faith to believe in His truth and to assert it everywhere we find ourselves.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Jim, how do folks find you?
Go to theconservativecaucus.com. That's our website. You'll find out everything about us.
Always a joy, Jim. I appreciate it very much, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, John.
You bet. Appreciate it very much. Again, the Conservative Caucus, Cub Creek Heating and Air Conditioning, and yeah, it's hot right now. In fact, might be hot enough you're running your air conditioning. Tomorrow might be cool enough for you to run your heater. Either way, you need Cub Creek Heating and Air Conditioning. Find them at klzradio.com.
Cub Creek Heating and Air Conditioning is the HVAC company KLZ Radio trusts. And that's because we know from experience that Cub Creek Heating and AC is built around integrity and craftsmanship. When Hunter and his team show up at your home, they're not looking for ways to sell you something you don't need. They are there simply to solve the problem that you called about. Nothing else. Hunter is constantly studying changes in his industry, new technology, new equipment, new regulations to make sure that you get the right HVAC solution at the best price. And that matters today because we've all heard the stories about companies that walk into a house already looking for the upsell. That's not Cub Creek. They're honest. They have integrity. They fix only what needs fixing and give you straightforward advice you can trust. And they sleep well at night knowing they treated people right. KLZ is proud to partner with Cub Creek. And when you hire them, you'll see why. Find out more about Cub Creek Heating and AC on the klzradio.com advertisers page.
All right, Dr. Scott, where he wants you to live your best life. Do that by being healthy, feeling good, losing weight in some cases. Whatever it is, give Scott a call, 303-663-6990.
What if you could get over 110 lab biomarkers tested, just like Dr. Mark Hyman advertises, but for a fraction of the cost, and with a doctor who actually explains the results? At Castle Rock Regenerative Health, Dr. Scott Faulkner has recreated this powerful biomarker test panel at a substantial savings. We have a special price for both men and women, just $689. That's a savings of over $2,500 over the standard price. And here's the difference. With Hyman, you get numbers on a page. With Castle Rock Regenerative Health, you get Dr. Faulkner and his team walking you through every result, showing what's off and creating a personalized plan to fix it. What's even better, you don't even have to be a concierge patient to get this pricing. This is open to everyone. Think about it. Most people's deductible is higher than this special price, and your regular doctor, if he could get approved by your insurance, would never order this many tests, let alone know what to do with them. Call 303-663-6990 today or visit CastleRockRegenerativeHealth.com. Take control of your health at Castle Rock Regenerative Health.
The good news for seniors on Medicare is that you have more options today than ever before. The challenge is that all of these new options can be very confusing, and making the wrong choice can cost you thousands of dollars more out of your pocket. Call Paul Lenigro at GIA Insurance, and his team of Medicare specialists will help you find the right plan for your needs. Call 303-423-0162 extension 100 or go online to e-gia.com.
This isn't rage radio. This is real, relatable radio. Back to Rush to Reason.
All right, last week I started a segment, and I've got another one for today that, things that make you go, this is my wife's idea. But, first things first. We always have to preface that we are not, I don't want, how should I say this? I want to be, sensitive and not say anything that we shouldn't, but this one just makes me go, And if you have kids listening, maybe you might want to turn this down for just a second. Because I don't understand people. I really don't. So, a woman's grocery haul turned into a horrific moment when a man sexually assaulted her last week in L.A. County, according to a sheriff's deputy response. On March 23rd, a woman shopping at the Valencia Whole Foods, keep in mind, Whole Foods, whole paycheck, was subjected to a man who exposed himself to her. An act that was caught on the store's security camera. I watched it, by the way. They blurred it out, but I did watch what happened. In the footage, the suspect is seen approaching a shopper. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, because if I was her, I wouldn't be laughing. But anyways, in the footage, the suspect is seen approaching a shopper as she kneels down. He is seen on the video lowering his pants. Then he presses his exposed genitals against the woman's ear while holding what appears to be a cell phone. I mean, where do these pervert wackadoodles come from? I mean, and if I'd have been her, I would have grabbed whatever was on the shelf and that thing might have come off. That'd be the last thing he ever did with it. But again, this little bit is called Things That Make You Go, and it's like, oh, okay, are they just that weird? I mean, I don't get it. So the California Post has reached out to Whole Foods. The company provided a statement which reads, "We are deeply concerned about the incident that occurred at our Valencia store on March 23rd. Whole Foods said in a statement to the California Post, the safety and well-being of our customers is our top priority. We are cooperating fully with the L.A. County Sheriff's Department in their investigation, blah, 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 blah." Now, by the way, I'm not faulting Whole Foods here. This isn't their fault. I mean, they can't control what pervert walks in the front door and who doesn't. I mean, I guess, are we at a day and age where, especially you ladies, if you're shopping by yourself, you have to, like, not bend down if there's any men walking down the aisle and just make sure that you go with someone else so you're not alone? I mean, what a crazy, screwed up world this is that you can't even go shopping in Whole Foods without having some dude put his penis on your ear. I mean, I'm laughing because, and I shouldn't be, because it's very serious and it's not laughing. It's not a laughing matter, but I'm laughing just because we have entered a whole nother level of just weirdness. Absolute weirdness. And I mean that sincerely. It's just utterly weird. Now, something else. I want to make sure I've got the story here. I think I had this earlier. I got to go back up in my notes and see. I also read today, and this is one that I don't fully understand. And I think it was one of the New York Post headlines today. There was a ride. I think this is at Universal Studios. Again, I'm trying to find the article. I had it in my notes, and I think I must have replaced it with something else because I didn't think this one was worth mentioning. But here it is. It's at Universal Studios, and it's a video whereby a wheelchair-bound person, so paralyzed individual, gets on a roller coaster, but was then killed. He went unconscious at some point during the ride, and then because he's got no control over himself, and especially has no control over his lower extremities, he's bouncing all around, his head's hitting things, and it essentially killed him. They're trying to revive him at the end of the ride, but that's another one where you just got to go, I mean, okay, you're paralyzed, and I mean, maybe he's been on rides before, maybe not. I don't know. His girlfriend was with him, but it's like, okay, if you're wheelchair bound because of a spinal injury, why are you on the ride? By the way, this is a roller coaster that goes 62 miles an hour on a 5,000-foot track. So it's almost a mile long, 62 miles an hour. And again, I'm no judgment because I don't know the individual. I don't know what he had done before. Don't know if he'd been on rides before, anything along those lines. But I mean, I'm not faulting Universal Studios. The people there say he was all strapped in, everything was good. I mean, they're not, they don't know whether this guy can ride the ride or not ride the ride and stay conscious, not stay conscious. Nor should they. The girlfriend said that I saw him on the first drop, and then I saw him hit his head. I tried to hold him. I couldn't hold him. Well, yeah, he's a fairly good-sized individual. There's a picture of him here in his wheelchair, and he's a fairly good-sized individual. She probably couldn't hold him. And he suffered severe facial trauma and a lot of blood loss. Well, yeah, because the roller coaster was just banging him all around like a rag doll. That's another one of these stories where it's just like things that make you go, It's like, okay, why is he on the ride in the Again, I don't run amusement parks. I don't know how the rides work. I'm not in charge of all of that. Don't want to be. But you got to wonder at what point should you not get on in the first place? And again, I'm not saying that he was at fault or they were at fault, but you got to ask yourself that question. If you're him and you're in that scenario, do you really need to be on the ride? Or should you maybe just sit this one out? And I'm guessing now that his family, at least, is saying, yeah, probably should have sat that one out. Now, I'm sure there will be lawsuits and other things that come to Universal Studios because of this, and, who knows how all that'll work, and will they settle out of court? Who knows? Who knows? That'll be a long, drawn-out thing as time goes by. But, again, you just have to ask yourself the question when it comes to some of these stories that I read, and literally there's hundreds of them that I see on a weekly basis. This can't be real. But both of those that I just read you, they are real stories. And that, yes, they did in fact happen. And again, at the end of the day, you just have to look and say, really? Really? Veteran Windows and Doors. Where you don't have to say that is if you want to cut the middleman out, save money on windows and doors, save money on across the board, and Dave does that by cutting out the middleman. And what I mean by that is Dave is the salesperson. He handles all of the install sides of things. He arranges all of the installers to be there. There's very little overhead in Dave's operation, and he does it all, including getting the windows from Provia to you. And he's got many, many options when it comes to the windows and doors that you can choose from. So give Dave a call today. Save some money on windows and doors. That is Dave Bancroft, Veteran Windows and Doors. Find him at klzradio.com.
No other window company can match the value for your money you get with Veteran Windows and Doors. In fact, they're so confident they can't be beat that they actually encourage you to do your homework first. Get other quotes and compare window ratings, warranties, and installation methods. When you do, you'll see the difference. Veteran will only sell you windows guaranteed to meet the new Colorado energy codes and built to last a lifetime. And their guarantee doesn't stop there. Veteran's exceptional installation process is backed by a 5-year installation warranty, something virtually unheard of in the window industry, along with the transferable lifetime window warranty. Veteran stands behind their work because they know it will last and they want you completely satisfied. That's true peace of mind, and it comes with long-term value. When it comes to cost versus value, no one comes close to our partner, Veteran Windows and Doors. Connect with Veteran today by going to klzradio.com.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Back to Rush to Reason.
Okay, wrapping up this Monday edition of Rush to Reason. Again, appreciate y'all listening. Had a couple of text messages on those last stories. One of them saying how they love Whole Foods but hate Target. Well, just be careful where you're shopping from now on and where you're bending down, because you just never know what's going to be lurking around the corner, I guess. Guys, that's it for today. Be safe out there. Have a great evening. Rush to Reason, Denver's Afternoon Rush, KLZ 560.